What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Darian Jones of Honor Kings and Sons TV podcast. Thank you so much for tuning into my podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you that comes and downloads my episodes every single week. If you are a newcomer to the podcast, please be sure to follow me on all social media platforms. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, and even LinkedIn if you just type in Honor Kings and Sons. And make sure that you join my Discord. The link is in the description. For those of you who are new, Honor Kings and Sons TV podcast is a platform where we help people find their kingdom. Everybody, I believe, is a king and a queen, and the person that it was meant to dominate their life. And so, regardless of the cards that you are dealt in life, I want to be able to help you, encourage you, inspire you, also from a faith based perspective, because this is a faith based platform, to encourage you to go after those things in life and go after fulfilling your purpose in life. So today I want to be able to talk to those who are married or considering marriage, and I want to talk about marital support. So I actually did a quick video of this months ago. As a matter of fact, not even months ago, pretty much 2023, towards the end of 2023, on my social media, one of my social media Instagram pages, talking about marital support. And so I wanted to be able to take some time to expound on it on today's episode. So listen in close. So, if you're a person that is, married or considering marriage, marriage is a beautiful thing. I believe it's a divine institution, ordained by God, and it is the institution where I believe the very core structure, very core structure of how God intended for us to understand, everything about Him, His love, His mercy, His perseverance, His judgment, His justice, His provision, His, intent to give us, an expected end for us to be prosperous. One of the places where we get to understand it in its full detail is in marriage, right? And with that, we also get to understand how God labors for us, labors with us, and we in turn are the host or the vessel in which God allows that to be manifest within our individual life for our spouse, right? The person that we decide we are going to, tie the knot and get this thing, rolling for a lifetime. And so when you decide that you're going to make that decision, I strongly believe, that there needs to be a season where you spend time talking about support, right? This can be if you're deciding on getting married through the courting phase, or if you didn't really have that conversation, it was kind of like a subconscious thing that you thought about with your spouse. This could be something that you talk about in marriage. It can be the first couple of months being married. If it hasn't been 5 years yet, you can have this. You really can have this conversation at any point in time, because it's a conversation that births cultivation. And I'm a firm believer that cultivation, out of the many skills that you need, that a person needs in life, cultivation is one of them. The art to be able to create something where there is nothing, right? And to steady build in that process, to build something beautiful. And so I believe that there's three types of support that a person who's considering marriage or is married should be talking to their significant other about. All right, so the first one that you have is what I call partial support, right? So partial support, and even before I get into the types of support itself, I want to define support as the involvement of yourself in the process of growth, development, expansion, and perfecting of your spouse's character, your spouse's dreams and goals and aspirations, and in your spouse's skill sets, right? That is what I'm defining as support. Your involvement, right? Your and even I would be as daring to say that there are degrees of involvement. There's a spectrum to it. It can be your mental support, your physical support, your emotional support, your spiritual support, your financial support, your social support, right? These are all different forms of support. And what I mean by social support is what? How you promote, right? How you represent, how you share, how you talk about the things that your significant other is into or interested in, right? So just to lay the ground for that. So now we get into partial support. Now remember, we have the degrees of involvement. We talked about the different types of support that exists, right? The different types of support that exist. So the partial support is you look at the spectrum, right? And based off of where you are, and some people, this is where it gets a little deep, but I'm gonna go deep, and we're gonna get through this together. Depending on your spouse and where they are, the person that you're asking for support is gonna determine what you're gonna get from them initially, and then what you'll probably get from them over time. Right? So this is where we have to be vulnerable, we have to be honest, and we have to take accountability. So partial support could be, hey, based on based on what we got going on financially, what we got going on with the kids, if there are kids involved, what we got going on with the responsibilities that we already have, right? And then maybe what I'm focusing on, because you may have a spouse that's in school, or one spouse kicked off their business, and whether it's doing well or doing not, they have to devote their time, and so on and so forth, and different things, right, that your spouse may be focused on. If you're a person that's faith-based, you might have a spouse that's in ministry, and that's a big commitment. Whatever it is, if their job is a big commitment, right? It can be anything. So you talk to them, you say, hey, listen, this is something that's been on my heart. I want to give it a try. I want to pursue it. It can be anything, that you decide that you want to do, and you're asking your spouse for support. The partial support is when they take a quick census, right? They subconsciously assess and analyze themselves. And this is what people are not thinking of or being aware of, that a person has to scan themselves in order to know. People are thinking about their energy levels. They're thinking about their nutrition, and it sounds funny, but it's the truth. People are thinking about their health. They're thinking about their level of selfishness. They're thinking about their sleep. They're thinking about their freedom, their free time. They're going down this long list of things, and then they're determining how much support they could give you. So the partial support is, hey, listen, right? For an example, let's say your spouse has an event, right? And they need help with the event, whether they are the ones that have to set it up themselves or they have to coordinate it, right? So they're asking you, to support the event. Maybe you start the initial build up. Maybe you're the person promoting. Maybe you're the person, that's passing out something. So then a person that offers partial support say, hey, I only can do this from 5 to 6, and then I have to go, right? Or they say, hey, this part of your dream, I'll be able to involve myself with, because this part, I'm good at it. I know what I'm talking about. I'll be able to advise you fairly well. I'll be able to guide you. I also have resources, right? So this part of your dream, this part of this goal, this idea that you have, it's part of my strengths, and I'm for sure be able to, lend you a hand in that part. So that's partial support, right? It's not full support because full support would be, hey, I don't know this thing, but I'm gonna figure it out with you, and we're gonna get to the full support soon, right? So partial support is an analytical type of support. It's when you look at what you're being asked, and then you say, hey, I reviewed, what you're asking me to do, and I review how this is going to affect us. And based on what I've reviewed, this is what I'm able, to offer, right? So that's partial support. Some people, like, let's say if a spouse wants to create a company, right? And they're looking for you to listen to them, talk about their business plan or whatever the case may be, right? So you say, hey, listen, I got 30 minutes, shoot it to me, let's talk it over, right? So that partial support is when they're not laboring with you, through the midnight hours. They are structuring themselves to give this portion of unadulterated, uninterrupted, undivided attention to you, right? And they're making sure that within that time span or within that duration that they devote themselves to you, that you get something solid back that helps you go forward, right? So that's partial support. Some people confuse partial support a lot of times with full support because of how frequent you might be going to your spouse. There might be questions that you have. There might be situations popping up. So you're doing this so much so that you think that your spouse is fully supporting you. And that is not true. We have to make sure that we understand what type of support we are offering, because if it's not defined, we don't understand. That's when the expectations start flying off the handle. That's when people start getting frustrated. And then that's when people start saying things they don't mean, or saying things that they do mean, but they should have said it in a nicer way. And it starts to become counterproductive, and it starts to become detrimental to your union. We have to make sure that we understand, the levels of support. And it must be something that you're constantly talking about, because a person can be partially supporting their spouse's dream, and it comes to a point where they can devote more, which brings us to our next type of support, which is seasonal support. So seasonal support is not necessarily partial support, and it's not necessarily full support. It's more like it's committed. It's a committed time frame, right? Or committed time of the year, where they decide that, hey, this time of the year or this duration of months, I am able to devote myself to you, right? Any question you have, anywhere you need me to be, I'm there for you. So you also can't get it twisted with full support, because remember, your spouse is telling you for this amount of time in the year. So it's not, oh, hey, from January to December, you can always count on me, right? That's not what that is. And it's also not partial, where it's like, hey, for this many hours, right? Because if it's a seasonal support, it's a stronger duration than 30 minutes. You get what I'm saying? So seasonal support is when your spouse says, hey, like, prime example, I used to be a school teacher. I was a school teacher. So everybody knows that school teachers get the summers off, right? You get June, you get July, And, depending on what state you live in, you get up to the first 2 or 3 weeks of August, correct? So if I was approached by my wife says, "Hey, I want to start this business. I want to start this company," or "Hey, I want to start a nonprofit," or "Hey, I decided I want to just, you know, try something out, try out a new hobby," right? Then once she breaks down all that it's going to take for this thing that she wants to do to be prosperous, to be effective, and to be something that, fits really well into, our life, I say, okay, listen, I get 2 months off, 2 months and some change. I will give you the support that you need during the summers. You got questions, you need me to drive you somewhere, you need help setting up, you need things proofread, you need promotion, I'm there, right? So that's the seasonal support from this time to this time, in the span of more than a few days. This is my contribution, right, to your dream, right? And over time, it can turn into something great. There's some marriages where that was how they built their wealth. One person worked, and the other person was building a dream, and the person that worked says, "Hey, listen, this is my vacation time. This is my time away from the job. I'm gonna give this time to you so that we can build what you have." And there you have it. And so some people should look into that. Some people should look into seasonal support, because you don't have to worry about, it's a trying time in your business, and the time that you're requesting from your spouse to help you, it's becoming a burden to your spouse, because they've been giving you 30 minutes every single day. They've been giving you, they gave you 2 weeks. You had a project that took 2 weeks to do. They gave you that 2 weeks, and then that was it. Right now, they need to go back to what they're doing, and you're just pulling on them, and you don't realize that you're wearing them down. You don't realize that because they probably help you so well, in that short amount of time, that you feel like they'll always be in that state to give you optimal performance. That is not, realistic, and it's unfair. So maybe a good idea for you is to talk about seasonal support with your spouse. Hey, can you devote every every first month of the year? Can you devote the summers? You know, your job is working. Your job, changes during the fall versus the winter. So hey, can you devote the winter to helping me? So that's seasonal support, right? And like I said, seasonal support is not necessarily partial, and it's not necessarily full, for the different reasons. But like I said, when it comes to seasonal support, you can count on consistency and consecutive times that your partner could come through for you, for a duration of time that might just boost what you're trying to do into a better place, right? So that's seasonal support. So now lastly, we go to what I call your full support. This is what every single marriage, every couple, as a matter of fact, any human being that's breathing, this is what we long for, and we always hope we will have, and that's full support. Full support means, there's no clause, there's no limit, there's no there's nothing that's going to stop your partner from being there for you. Even if you guys don't know what you're doing, your partner makes a decision. We're going to find this thing out together. We're going to figure this thing out together. I'm never leaving your side, right? This is when you, this is more of a support that is spiritual, It's more of a support that is by choice. They make the decision, a one time decision, to always give themselves and make themselves available to you in a way that can impact all that you're doing for forever and ever. And we have to be very careful when we have somebody in our life that's giving their full support. That means financially, spiritually, socially, mentally, physically. We have to be so careful because actually, what people don't understand is that when you have somebody that is giving you their full support, the responsibility is now switched. What do I mean by switched? The responsibility is that it is now on you to care for them. And honestly, it's now on you to support them. How can you grow and ask for support if you don't know how to take care of your resources, take care of your help? So, prime example, let's say you've been asking your spouse to help you set up, right? The way your business works, you might, have to go someplace and set up. And this is gonna sound so, like, oh, that's simple. But hear me out. Let's say, you know, um, you got to go set up, and you are out there. You guys are doing the event. Next thing you know, your spouse is thirsty, right? So you go get them a soda, and then you get them another soda, and then another soda, and then another soda, and then another soda, and then another soda. Next thing you know, they sick. They don't put on weight. The teeth done got jacked up. That type of stuff, right? So you didn't even realize that the support you were begging for, the full time support that you were begging for, you were destroying it because you were not stewarding it well. So now that person that was a full time fan and supporter in person, they physically can't be there because they're always in the hospital. Now remember, we're still talking about full support, so they still are going to be ride or die for you, even though you sent them to the hospital. And it may sound extreme in some ways, but I want people to think that the ultimate way that you can pay back a person that's fully supporting you is to make sure that you are setting things up where they have the strength and they have the full capacity to take on what it is that you're doing. You might say to yourself, man, that's just as difficult as what I'm trying to do. Well, that's the responsibility that comes with it. We as spouses have to be very responsible and very great stewards of our significant other. We should always be pouring into them and strengthening them throughout this process so that they can be available to help. We must understand that sowing seeds and investing into one another, it doesn't go overlooked. It is the way that we always experience fruitfulness. So, with that being said, I encourage each and every one of you who are listening in to today's episode to really take that time with your significant other to talk about the types of support that you can give to one another. Maybe it starts out as partial support. Maybe you guys spend some time and go in depth, and then you decide that seasonal support works the best. Or maybe you guys are just ride or die, and you're like, listen, I'm all in. There's no part of your dream that I'm going to just be half and half with or be 10% with. I'm going to give everything to supporting what it is that you want to do. So really take that time to just think about what it is that your spouse is looking for, or if you are that spouse that is looking for support, and just allow it to be a beautiful journey of cultivation. So definitely, you guys, let me know how it goes. Join my Discord and let me know how we can, really expound on the conversation. I would love to get some testimonials and stories on how definitely this advice impacted some of you guys. So I'm looking forward to it. Tell somebody about, the types of support, and subscribe to the podcast and YouTube channel and my social media platforms so that I'm able to provide you guys with more information and advice on matters like this. So until next time, this is Darian Jones, Honor Kings and Sons TV podcast. Follow me on all social media platforms. Just type in Honor Kings and Sons, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys pretty soon. Until next time, be easy.